Really, all of us as humans have what we call 3 parts of a mind. So 3 parts of a mind, this is not 3 parts of your brain. We call it 3 parts of a mind through work we do in behavioral instruments and different ways to have matching, okay? Because what's your goal with your team? The goal with your team is to get the right people on the bus in the right seat, then together you determine where you're going, okay? If I said to you right now, there's a bus outside, how many of you want to go on a journey with me? How many of you just say, okay? And I love bald. You'd be my favorite. So, 2 people. What would the rest of you want to know? Where are we going? What would you ask? How are we going to get there? And those women in the room, what do I wear? Right? So you think of a dental practice with no vision is like getting on a bus. A dental practice with no defined roles and job descriptions is getting on a bus with no seats. We all get on this bus and we all roll around doing everything, banging into each other, not knowing where we're going. Okay? So for your vision, if you are a leader, a manager, one of the most critical things you can do to lead people to a better future is to answer this question. Where do I see this practice going in the next 3 to 5 years as far as the health of the team, the patient, and the business? That's your key. We could spend all day facilitating you on answering that question. But if you don't know where your practice is going in the next 3 to 5 years, any road's going to take you somewhere. And for the 2 of us in this room that wouldn't care, we just have fun riding together, that's great. But the rest of you said, you know what? I don't know why I would get on a bus with no seats, not knowing where we're going, how long it's going to take, right? That's like running a practice with no direction. That's one of the biggest issues, and it's tough for vision because it's also, like years ago, dentists used to say to me, this vision stuff, it's fluff. And I said, well, your vision is where you want to be. What are your goals is how we're going to get there. It's like your map. And when you have a team approach to creating the vision and to setting out and mapping the course, you have a much higher chance of getting somewhere to a better future than just having a chaotic environment where we all show up 2 minutes before 30 to 40 humans are coming in to have an intimate zone of their body treated. Right? It doesn't work. So in your 3 parts, this is 3 parts of every human. We've got our cognitive, our affective, and our conative, excuse me. So what's our thinking brain is our left brain. You got a 98.8 undergrad in science, you get a dental school interview because you're smart, you can memorize, you've got high IQ. Dr. Wunderlich wrote the IQ test. Been used for decades on assessing someone's IQ. This is what dentistry attracts. Would you agree? They attract high IQ. They work to teach you the technical skills. Then you get out into the real world, and 85 cents on every dollar comes from dealing with emotional side, which is people and their stories and their desires and employees and what motivates them and their attitudes, what they believe in. That's the disconnect. And I love it because it's created a great career. Not because you don't know, but what knowledge without emotion just makes you feel smarter. Knowledge without application into a behavior of what you do makes you smarter. Someone said to me walking in, I really like your class, you're way better than my professors. I said, oh, I am not easily accepted in an academic environment, right? And I taught here to the undergrad for quite a while, and I just used to get complaints because I used to blare U2 to wake up all the students on a Friday morning before they really didn't want to be there at 7:33. And it's just a different environment. It's not good or bad. Your academic is just the beginning. Because what does it work on? The left. The real life. And if you talk to any dentist 20, 25 years out who's learned this at that stage, I will tell you in our experience, 8 out of 10 of them say, if I only could have learned this a decade ago, I would have been a lot further ahead. So you will be further ahead. A lot of you are newer into dentistry. It's not someone been here. I don't think there's anyone here that's been here 30, 40 years and just wants to change their life or disrupt 4 decades of being a dentist, right? So when you look at this, your left brain, this is your right brain. This is your, what organ do you think affective comes from? This comes from your head. That comes from your heart. Most electrically charged organ in human relationships. Also, the #1 killer of men and women in this country of unmanaged stress going to that organ and causing heart disease. Forget the genetics and all of that. A lot of it, what did they say? 1% of life is the event. 99% is how you choose to respond emotionally. And it is a choice. Right? It definitely is a choice. Now, the doing part of it, it's really interesting. The doing part of it comes from Kathy Kolbe. And when we were going through Kathy Kolbe's certification, this is an instrument that can assess what is it people will do left to their own devices to maximize their natural instinct. I will tell you this instrument has a 99.8% confidence ratio across the globe of the 7.5 billion people, regardless of country, culture, language. I've never seen anything like this so accurate. And what this shows is what is your natural instinct, because this is the gut. Head, heart, the gut. The gut's very difficult to measure. So how they measure the gut is your gut's where your instinct comes from. And they measure that based on what is it you will do. And it's interesting. Kathy Kolbe was the daughter of Dr. Wonderlic, who spent her whole life saying, Dad, smart people aren't much fun. Dad, just because they're really smart doesn't mean they have friends. Dad, smart people are perfectionists who are really miserable. They're striving for something that doesn't exist. Dad, there's got to be more to life than just personality is on this side, IQ's on this side. So she created years of research and science around a Kolbe profile. You can do it online. You can give Lori a note. We work with this all the time. Here's the thing. Why is Kolbe so relevant to dentistry? I mean, you can do colors and you can do DISC. DISC is a big one we use for how people behave emotionally in a certain environment. But Kolbe is how you're born. And we're amazed at how many people's Kolbe is coming out that they're in a position that sucks their energy against their natural instinct of when they would be their best. And when you're talking about when Colin says, get the right people on the bus, get the right people in the right seats, I have seen one person go from one bus and completely tank, go to another bus and excel, and it's not the person, because everywhere we go, there we are. Right? It's the difference in the cultures. So you finding the right fit is critical. But a lot of you say, well, how do I do that? I had someone ask me, what's the mindsets or the characteristics of an administrative team member? So when we get into it, a treatment coordinator, there's certain mindsets and there's certain natural tools that are good for different parts of the positions on the bus or in the different seats, okay? So all of us come with this, our head, our heart, and our gut. This one manages energy, mental energy, and mental energy comes out in what we do. Doing is a behavior. Thinking is feeling smarter. Feeling is feeling emotional, okay? Doing is something we can take a picture of or tape record. And you're going to get to a place in your daily operations of a practice is big reason why people don't have, teams don't have team meetings. Well, all we do is get in a room and you got like 28 great women that just like complain, right? That's thinking and feeling. How you have productive meetings is everything is what are we going to do? You notice every time I close with you, what are you going to do differently? Not what are you going to think differently, how are you going to feel differently. You can figure that out. But what is it you're going to do as a result of learning this is what's measurable. Make sense? So you take all of that, we all come with we all have a story, we all have a childhood, we all have a unique ability. Here's the thing. To know what your unique ability is, what is unique ability is what is it that is special about you. Every single person in this room has a unique ability or magnificence right at the core. Just some of it's covered up with a lot of layers. I use the analogy of an onion. What do we know about an onion? The core of the flavor is where? In the middle. Right? So you think about it, to get to the core of the middle, we either take a sharp instrument and chop it all up and hope we don't have too many tears and bodily reactions to it. Think of it like this. You're an onion with layers that just need to be peeled to get to the core of your magnificence. Only you can do that in your self-awareness. And then when you're aware, how you influence others becomes very powerful. Okay? So you can see we do a lot of work with this, in leaders, because how you've changed since I've changed, it's going to be on my tombstone with my dental reality TV show playing at my funeral. Okay? Is those of you who've been married more than once, don't raise your hand, but you know it goes against all fundamental universal laws of the human race to make another person be how I want them to be. And some of you keep trying. Right? A dentist says to me, Lisa, why don't they just do what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it all the time? I said, that would be boring. No, it wouldn't. I said, well, here's the thing. If you look in your handout, I've given you the 10 reasons people don't do what you expect, and it's not about them. It's a reflection of how you lead yourself. You lead the culture, how you set up your management playbook and systems, and what's our agreements along the journey, because we know where we want to go. Would you agree? My favorite bald guy, what's your first name? Joseph. Would you agree it's a lot different if I was taking you to Alaska than if I was taking you to Hawaii? Sure. Wouldn't you think he didn't need to know because he's a risk taker? Like me, right? I go, I don't care, I'll go anywhere but here. Right? But you need to know where you're going. That the team needs to purpose. We're going to talk about engaged purpose. Where is it you're going? If you don't know, guess what? As a leader, you can't expect anyone else to know, perform, meet your expectations, because a lot of times why people don't do what we want them to do is they think what they're doing is great. Okay, something to think about. So when we look at this, how do you see yourself? What is your cognitive, your affective, your instinct? Then how does that transfer out as a reflection into the environment? And there's a law of the lid in leadership. Law of the lid. No team or anyone that's led by someone can ever rise above the lid set by the leader. There's lots of research on this. There's lots of information on this. The big analogy you'll see in the literature in studying leadership, there's over 500 books been published in the last 3 years on nothing but leadership. It's a big topic because the world's looking for leaders, right? There's leaders. I often say, a leader with no followers is just taking a walk. Right? I had a big conference call at the end of my program yesterday with a dentist and said, like, I have a vision, I have a purpose, I know what the goals are, I just can't get them to get it. And I said, then you're a leader taking a walk, pontificating all your dreams, but if you don't have followers, it's not leadership. Yeah. Right? And that's what's burning out a lot of workplace stress in dentistry. It's not because you're not a good person. It's, you got to lead. I don't know any other way to tell you. You got to stand up and lead, especially if you're accountable for all the people on your bus, knowing what it is I do, how do I win, how do I know when I've won, how do I know when I've achieved progress, and there's some things we've got to let go of. So law of the lid, a big analogy they use in the literature about this is the Mcdonald story of the two brothers. And I don't know if you know the story, I won't give you the whole thing, but there's two brothers that started McDonald's. And what happened is they did really well, got to a certain part in their McDonald's restaurants, but the McDonald's could never go above the lid of the two brothers of the limitations they saw, so they got bought out, they sold their shares, they're regretting it, trust me now. But another leadership model came along that raised the bar above the lid of how you see it. So your team will never go above the lid, gang, on the jar that you've set at a fixed point. That's why leadership is a journey. It's not an event.